Hello, everyone. It's Michael Jacob with Unleashing Intuition Secrets. I'm super excited to be joined by one of my favorites, Robert David Steele. Never thought I'd get the opportunity to interview him. And tomorrow I'm going to be on his show as well. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So Robert, you want to give us a little bit of a background on yourself before we jump in?
I guess the short answer is I grew up overseas, 10 years in Latin America, 10 years in Asia, including 4 years in Vietnam from 63 to 67 as a kid, not as a combatant. But I did see burning monks, and I went through 10 coups, and I traded cigarettes for bullets, and I nearly burned down a golf course once. Wow. Then I came back. My father was captured by the Vietnamese Northern Militia, turned over to the Chinese. They might even have sold him to the Chinese. But when he got out of China, and they put him in a guest house, not a prison. So I'm always going to have a soft spot in my heart for China for having treated my father with dignity. We went to Singapore. Then I did Muhlenberg Political Science, 𝗨𝙗 International Relations with a thesis on predicting revolution. Decided I'd become soft, fat, and stupid, so I joined the Marine Corps. So they cured the soft and fat part, then I found the Marine Corps boring in peacetime, although I was very lucky. I mean, as a young second lieutenant brown bar piece of shit, I became a field officer, a field grade officer in charge of S1 adjutancy for a 1,500 man battalion, because they found out I was the only lieutenant that could read and write. So we had a good time. The Marine Corps treated me pretty well, but I found it boring. So the CIA was recruiting. I joined the CIA. I'm told I'm one of 65 out of 25,000 applicants that was accepted to be a spy for that year. And did 3 back-to-back tours overseas. One of the first guys assigned terrorism as a full-time target. Learned a lot about how our system does not work. For example, the National Security Agency does not provide signals intelligence support to clandestine operators trying to recruit terrorists and do other things in the field. Came back, did 3 tours in Washington, counterintelligence. They made me the first guy that was the artificial intelligence staff was built around me. So I know something about how bad our technology is. And then I went to satellites where I was responsible for future planning for signals and imagery satellites. So I had a very diversified experience. Got crosswise with a little shit that didn't like it when I told him I wouldn't do covert action. I told him I signed up to steal the truth for my country, not lie for my country. So he wanted to fire me. And by the grace of God, the Marine Corps, which I'd been a reservist and helped write the Marine Corps Master Intelligence Plan and so forth, Marine Corps offered me a 2-grade promotion because I'd been in GS-14 positions, although I was a GS-12 at CIA. And CIA is rank in person, DOD is rank in position. So I was qualified to be a 14. Overnight, I became a 14. I was a senior civilian responsible for creating the Marine Corps intelligence activity, which at the time was our nation's newest national intelligence agency. And I worked for Colonel Walter Breedy, U.S. Naval Academy 68. And he was one of the greatest bosses I've ever had. And we did what we were supposed to do. We looked at the expeditionary world, and we found out that everything the Army and the Navy and the Air Force were telling us to buy was shit. It wouldn't work in an expeditionary environment. I mean, they were asking us to buy 70-ton artillery systems and M1 tanks that invented the concept of gallons per mile. And we needed expeditionary stuff that would fit on a Navy ship, that could get off a Navy ship, and that could then go overland and do 30-ton bridges. And we needed aircraft that were for a hot, humid day, not so forth. Anyway, it's a great, great learning experience. And what I discovered, and this is my punchline, what I discovered was the spies don't know jack shit about most of what we need to know. And open source intelligence does provide all of this. So I started the open source intelligence revolution. Within a year, the Marine Corps came to my general and said, you got to stop Steele talking about open source intelligence, no more conferences. My general told me, Steele, you got to shut up. I said, sir, I quit. And so I left the Marine Corps. I quit on a Friday instead of a Monday. I gave up $750 in order to remember that I had quit on the 1st of April, 1993. And so I've been on a revolutionary path ever since. And I never in a million years thought I would end up today running 10 websites, making 5 movies, and doing a multi-million-dollar national Patriots tour. Weird. Obviously, I'm God's instrument, because this is not Robert David Steele being cool. This is Robert David Steele being somebody else's instrument.
Well, I think it's, the military, treated us well and trained us well. And that's why, you know, we do the things that we continue to do on the other side of, you know, the military. Now, I was in SEAL teams, SEAL Team 6, and I went on to work for the CIA like you, did security work while some of your compadres probably were gathering intel in a lot of different places in, you know, Iraq, you know, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Beirut, and on and on and on. So I've seen part of the intel, you know, on both sides. I like the military. I loved the CIA for, you know, the things that I was involved in, but, you know, there are some problems there. What are your thoughts on, you know, what's going on with our intelligence community right now?
Well, let's start with the fact that CIA was created by Wall Street to serve Wall Street. So Allen Dulles was a Wall Street lawyer. He was sent to Washington to sell the idea of CIA, and it's been used ever since as a lily pad for doing bad shit that helps Wall Street and fucks up the American people. Drone assassinations, rendition and torture, rigging elections, bribing dictators. None of this stuff actually helps the American people. The original idea that was sold to Harry Truman was a good one. A central intelligence agency that would bring together all of the different streams of information, signals, imagery, so forth, and it would present the president with evidence to make serious decisions at the strategic, operational, tactical, and acquisition levels. That's not what CIA does. In fact, General Tony Zinni, when he was commanding general of CENTCOM, asked his J2 one day, he said, what do we get from CIA and these guys that's useful to us? And the J2 said, sir, we get about 20% of our information from them. And Zinni said, well, okay, so of that 20%, how much of it can we get from open source? He said, sir, about 80%. So Zinni said, so you're telling me CIA is giving us 4% of what we need to know to run 2 wars and 12 joint task forces? Yes, sir. Okay, they're not worth what we're paying them for. Now, I love CIA and I want to keep CIA. I mean, as a 38-year-old, I was spending $100,000 a month and walking through walls and doing really cool shit. But at the end of the day, I realized that every single one of my agents was blown because the Cubans owned the street. Okay. And it's real tough, particularly in Afghanistan, for a white guy, even if he's in a burqa because he's 7 feet tall. It's really, really tough to do secret intelligence. And I was appalled. I mean, I've been in Lebanon and El Salvador and other places. A clandestine case officer should get from point A to point B without being seen. And he should not need a bunch of SEALs in big black SUVs with automatic weapons around him to go to a secret meeting. Okay, give me a break.
Now, a lot of times, you know, I would walk with people that had burqas on when I had my outfit on. So it worked out pretty good when someone else picked us up. And that one person was the guy that eventually led us to bin Laden. I know you have thoughts about bin Laden, and if you want to discuss those, that's fine. But you're very well read. I mean, I feel that I'm extremely well read, nonfiction, over 500, you know, books. You have read 2,000. What did you?
Well, I've reviewed over 2,000. I've actually read over 5,000. Wow. This happened by accident. This was an accident. Do you want the story?
Yeah. What do you get from all that? I mean,
well, let me first say that this started by reading 300 books that I used for my first 2 books on intelligence. I wrote a book on intelligence, spies and secrecy in an open world, and they still don't get it. In fact, they're starting to have conferences now on open source intelligence, and they very studiously avoid mentioning me. In fact, CIA calls me, my secret CIA code name is Open Source. S-O-R-E-S, Open Source. Oh yeah, Open Source, okay? Well, the fuckers are now starting to talk about an open source agency because they realize that's $2 billion that I've already gotten approved per year by OMB. Anyway, so I read 150 books for my first book on intelligence, spies, and secrecy in an open world. And then I read another 150 books for my second book, The New Craft of Intelligence, Personal, Public, and Political, or something like that. And Amazon had just started Amazon reviews. So I uploaded all 300 reviews on like the 4th of April, 2001. And I was instantly a top 1,500 Amazon reviewer, because it had just started. I just uploaded 300 reviews. Anyway, so I kind of got hooked on reading. And for a while there, I was spending $5,000 a year on books. And I was also a gold card on 2 airlines, on American Airlines and United Airlines. So I was reading 10 books on an around the world trip. And it just kind of grew on me. And I did the reviews mostly because I'm going senile and they're kind of like a memory aid. Okay. So the reviews are what I think I remember from this book. And they turned into something really, really cool. Now, Amazon started to censor me. They started to censor my reviews. They started to censor some of my books. So I finally said, I'm not doing this anymore. So I started 𝙂𝙂 the website, and I hired my 12-year-old who was much better than me at computers. And I said, I'll give you $1 for every review that you migrate from Amazon to my new website. So he made $2,000 in 2 weeks. And he was a happy camper. But the interesting thing for me is that it wasn't until I moved my office into a townhouse and I actually had a full floor as a library that I realized I was reading in 98 categories, 97 nonfiction and then 98 for fiction as truth. There's a great book, God, what's it called? There's a great book on torture, Broken by Mike Kearns and a couple of other guys. And that book, Broken, is fiction, but it's actually truth. Yep. Okay, so I then started thinking about the craft of intelligence. And I mean, there was a time when I was talked about as a future director of Central Intelligence, and then I realized I would cut their budget by 70%. At that point, I became open source. Now, today, I would not cut their budget by 70%. Today, I would simply give them ethical adult leadership, because 2/3 of the intelligence community is absolute worthless crap. It's good people, worthless crap. They should be doing Somalia and Burundi and stuff like that. They should be doing domestic decision support on agriculture and trade competitiveness and water purity and the vaccines and the 5G threat to public health. Okay, so the 𝙭is not earning its paycheck. And that needs to change, because in today's world, you have to do threat analysis at every level on every product and so forth. So anyway, so the books for me have been helpful, because when I became a truther, I was the only truther on the planet who had been a spy and was the top nonfiction reviewer.
Incredible, incredible. Yeah, that's pretty impressive. Now, for me, it was great that Audible books came out, because I used to like have books, and that was half my suitcase when I used to travel. So the Audible was great for me. Now I work with the Marine, and when I was at 6, we had some great Marines that worked there with us, taught us intel and counter intel, and trained us in counter intel. It was really amazing. Now that really helped me out when I went overseas and became part of the CIA, and was working to find terrorists. I was like a terrorist hunter, and we found quite a few of them. One of those being, we thought and I believe, was bin Laden. The doctor that eventually would lead us to him, the case officer I was working with, was like, I don't think this guy's any good. I'm like, I think he's going to lead us to bin Laden. I don't know why, had that intel,
He was already dead,
Yeah, so you think he's already dead. So who was that we killed?
Well, I'll tell you, there's a great post at 𝙂𝙂 when the bin Laden was killed in Abbottabad, which is the Pakistani military's resort town. Okay, you don't hide out in a Pakistani military resort town with the military academy a block away. That was a patsy. And I've had this discussion with a very famous journalist who told him it was confirmed for him by a Pakistani field grade officer. This was a patsy that SEALs died to kill as a political theater gift to Obama and Leon Panetta, who has much to atone for. And the reason McRaven turned all the files over to CIA is because he knows it was a fake raid and he wants nothing to do with it.
McRaven, I like.
No, it's sadness. It's really sad. I mean, I don't know whether bin Laden was run by CIA originally or not. Steve Piesnak obviously thinks so. I have a lot of respect for him. But we have his death notice from 2000 or 2001. Bin Laden said he had nothing to do with 9/11. I know that for a fact. I've published a book on 9/11.
Absolutely.
This was the Zionists backed up by Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld. They started planning 9/11 in 1987, when the buildings were condemned by the EPA and the New York, and the governor of New York and the governor of New Jersey, who owned the Twin Towers, were told, you have to take this down manually because you can't do controlled demolitions because of all the asbestos and toxic chemicals.
So
So
what they did, they controlled demolition, brought it down, because I'm a
yes, they did. That's
expert, and that's what I was like, they planted explosives in there. Who got in there and did that? And then as you started to look at stuff, it's like, we did. It's like, or not we, but you know.
Well, Larry Silverstein, I think the Mossad, Larry Silverstein, all these so-called Mossad artists, you know, they did all of this, and they also put either a missile into the Pentagon or it was an inside-out explosion. I mean, I've cleaned up after helicopter accidents, and you've got body parts and luggage and you know, aircraft parts everywhere. There was no debris on the field outside the Pentagon. And as far as the towers go, I think that was holograms, because engines are titanium engines, and there were steel beams every 14 inches. The engines would have impacted and dropped. So this was all fake. And I think Trump is going to come back, and I think he is going to do 9/11 disclosure. And I got to tell you, Hillary Clinton isn't half as evil as Dick Cheney. The two of them are a pair of satanic little Lucifers that need to meet their maker soon.
Oh, I agree, totally. And who knows, maybe in some aspect they have. So there's
I agree with you. I agree.
You know,
the new Hillary is 6 inches shorter than the old Hillary.
Absolutely. And then, you know, that's what we saw with bin Laden too. We had, you know, somebody posing as him, you know, in videos. I absolutely agree with that.
Well, let me interrupt and also tell you, when I was still working SOCOM as a client, I was getting complaints. They were saying, what is it with these fucking CIA guys? They're having us kill busboys and truck drivers that have nothing to do with anything. And for a while there, we were using drones to assassinate drivers who were taking a dump by the side of the road, because that was a signature of putting in an IED. So take a shit, get a $800,000 Tomahawk missile up your ass. That's not cool at all.
No, we had people we were working with that they're like, okay, he's going to be at this place this time, you know, one of our targets. And so he gets out of the vehicle, walks through the gate. They're shutting the gate, and then the missile hits. And of course he's free. And I remember listening to the guy that gave us the intel get in the car and say, you guys are stupid. It was like, yeah, pretty much. You hit them when they're in the car. It's like, so yeah, we're doing stupid stuff out there.
Well, it's worse than that. I mean, Vietnam, although I was a kid in Vietnam from 63 to 67, I read a lot of books about Vietnam. And two that really stand out are The Tunnels of Cu Chi and War Without Windows, and also by Zumwalt, Bare Feet and Iron Will. I mean, the Vietnamese kicked our ass, and we should never have been in Vietnam. I now realize we were in Vietnam to use up our military so we would have to buy it again. That's the same reason we went into Iraq. Okay. Now, what I found from my reading in Vietnam is that most of the people we killed were people that our informants owed money to. And so they were using us as an assassination service to get debt free. And Americans are naive, and we don't speak the languages as well as we should, and we don't have the deep, we don't do principal agents anymore, which used to be a real art. So the white guy would have a principal agent who was a third country national who would then manage a distributed network and be invisible. And we don't do street security the way we should. And I realize in retrospect, I was just as bad. I think every agent I ever handled was blown within 2 weeks of my meeting them.
Wow. Yeah, we saw that often, unfortunately, when guys will make a mistake with phones or whatever, and then you see everybody get wiped out. So yeah, there's a lot of mistakes that happen out there with the intel community. So that's interesting that you and I have similar, you know, insights on that.
And I think we both agree we want to save intel. We need intel, but intel needs to do 100% of the threats, 100% of the policies, and it needs to have a grip on true cost economics.
Absolutely. And you've done some of that actually with some of my old, you know, the SEAL teams and stuff like that. What can you tell us a little bit about what you did and how that could work right now?
Well, let's start with closing all of our military bases around the world. They're basically not there to defend America. They're there as lily pads for the smuggling of children and drugs and guns and gold and dirty money.
All right.
They are not there to defend America.
I've seen it. Yep.
Okay, now that also brings all of our troops and their wallets home. And that also brings millions of support jobs that now go to foreigners home. I've done 3 books recently, one on reinventing national security, which was paid for by the Army War College, which then refused to publish it. They did not like the answers that I came up with, which included a 450 ship Navy that can put a company of Marines with Harriers and helicopters overhead anywhere in the world in 24 hours. Right now, the Navy is 4 to 6 days away from anywhere. Okay. And they're too afraid to come in below, inside of 200 clicks, because the third world has coastal artillery and coastal missiles that will fry our ass. Okay, there are Sunbeam missiles that Iran can take out a carrier anytime. Now, the good news is Iran knows it cannot sink a US ship because that will enrage the public. So they do the Soviet thing, which is a single Soviet unarmed aircraft stopped the USS Donald Cook cold in the water. All of the weapon systems, all of the communication systems, all the mobility systems were fried.
Yep. With
electromagnetic. Okay, now that doesn't piss off the American public. That causes the American public to say, hey, wait a minute, are we getting our money's worth here? All right, so I would close all the bases, but we need a 450 ship Navy. We need special forces circuit riders who are completely undercover, who are in every province of every country 24/7. We need eyes on the ground 24/7 because the satellites are not cutting it and CIA does not do provinces.
I agree.
Okay.
Put that out in Panama. In Panama, we had the CIA, and just before the invasion, we had the CIA giving us all this intel, and we're like, this just doesn't work. This doesn't make sense. So we started doing our own intel and finding out they were full of it, and just uncovered all kinds of crazy stuff. So
I am intimately familiar with Panama.
It's brilliant.
I'm intimately familiar with Panama.
Oh, good.
And I'll tell you, that's where, this is a true story. I was one of the first guys assigned terrorism full time. And so I went to our signals guy and I said, here's a bottle of scotch. These are some of my key phrases. Let's see what you got. He took the scotch. The next day I got 15 hits. It was fantastic. So I went back the second day. I said, well, what do you got for me? He said, oh, look, I just did that as an experiment because you gave me a bottle of scotch. He said, I have higher priorities and I just can't support you. That's when I learned that we're not getting the signals intelligence support that we need on a daily basis. Right. Now, I've always known that CIA does not do, in fact, 𝗨𝙁𝙤𝙤 has said CIA doesn't do gutters. They don't do tours that require diarrhea every day. Okay. Yep. And that's where, in fact, if I were God, I would have a deputy director of SOF for white SOF, and I'd have a deputy director of SOF for black SOF. We've gone way too far on the hunter-killer side, and we've completely lost the hearts and minds and mobilization and eyes on the ground side. We've also completely lost the ability to recruit foreigners that love the idea of bringing their native language, knowledge, and skills. Like, I mean, we did so well with Eastern Europeans back in the day. We should be doing that with Arabs and Pakistanis and so forth. And we should be building our own international. I want SOF to look like the United Nations after we demolish it. Okay, I want to throw the UN out of New York. But SOF needs to be a UN type internationalized capability. And I just am very disappointed. We've become a military industrial complex whose only skill is sucking the American taxpayer's pocket dry, and we can't win a war today. We could not beat China or Russia on their home ground, nor should we have to. No.
Now, this tour you're going to do, this is fabulous. You're going to probably, awaken a lot of people on this tour, no doubt about it. Now, you're totally into, child trafficking and human trafficking and so forth. I've been hitting that drum for the last year and a half. I have people come on, they're like, I know this stuff intimately, but people are not going to watch this. I'm like, you're going to be surprised. And they do, they're watching, they're paying attention now. They're very turned on to this. Before they were like, no, that can't exist. But now people are like, oh my God, what you have done amazing work with this. Absolutely.
Well, again, it's an accident. I got to tell you, and that's one of the reasons I noticed you the first time, but it's almost as if stuff is being handed to me and I end up doing something with it. For example, I was asked to be the Chief Justice for an academic nonprofit review of satanic pedophilia. And I did a 1 hour or a summary session in my academic robes. We've never pretended to be a law enforcement or a judicial element. And that got translated into French and Spanish, and that started to open people's eyes. It also opened my eyes. So when 𝗏𝗏𝗄𝗃 happened, I started noticing that there was a very fine guy, a West Pointer, 𝗏𝗏𝗄𝗃, doing really good articles on 𝗏𝗏𝗄𝗃. So I threw $12,000 at him from donors, and he wrote what has turned out to be 5 books. And they're all free online at 𝗏𝗏𝗼�empire.org.
I've read some of those. Those are very, very good.
You know, I'm not into it as much as I'm a nurturer or a facilitator. So when Joaquin and I agreed to this, I said, I have two rules for you. Number 1, every fact will be endnoted. And number 2, every endnote will have a link to the original source. Now that means we have published 4 books now, 49 online chapters. The 5th book is coming out in a month. We have published the only reference work on the planet that is available in full text online, translatable into all the Google languages, that has a tag cloud that names names.
Wow.
And that has 5 books with indexes. Okay. And every single fact is documented with a link. There's nothing else like it in the world. 𝗏𝗏𝗼�empire.org. It's free online.
That's beautiful. So we just saw the King of England, you know, die. Died on 99, and of course he died on the 9th. So it's you know, 666 upside down. So you know, I like to play these games. I think the guy
𝗏𝗏𝗼𝗏 likes to play with numerology and symbology and astrology.
He does a really good job with that too. I love it.
Well, I've spent about 30 hours with him, and over multiple dinners, and he impresses me greatly.
Yeah, he is a very intelligent and, you know, broad range as far, like yourself, in a lot of different
well, he's almost a presidential level troubleshooter, and he has access and insights that are quite priceless. And people don't understand that he's undercover. That's why he doesn't show his face, you know, normally. I mean, he does show his face when he's dealing with people that he wants to have interactions with. And the name that people think is his real name is not his real name.
Of course not. Yeah. So yeah, that's impressive. So that the pedophilia, you know, we're hearing stories of the dumbs and stuff like that. What are your insights on that? I've had several people on to talk about that, and I've had people actually come to me and tell me some stories that are pretty.
I think you know better than I, because I'm sitting here in a basement, my undisclosed location, which I'm about to move out. The Packers are coming on the 15th. All I can tell you is I believe that toward 8 million children a year are trafficked. Many of them are tortured, cannibalized. You know, the best way I've found to explain adrenochrome is to tell people that when the Chinese boil a dog to death alive, they're doing that to adrenalize the blood, because that changes the taste of the meat. Adrenochrome is apparently very addictive. So children are tortured to put adrenaline into their blood, and then these assholes drink it. They also cannibalize the children, and then the children are murdered. And, you know, incinerators are great for destroying evidence. And so a lot of these children, I mean, we even have a Mormon cult that was in the media about 2 years ago. They've been giving birth to children as a cash crop and selling them in Turkey for $50,000 a pop without birth certificates, so no one misses them. Okay, so toward 8 million children a year. And you know, wars are body part trading centers. All of this stuff is evil. And I am not familiar with the dumbs, although I've seen some seismic evidence of 15-story dumbs being taken down. I believe all of this stuff. All I can say is that with all of my background and education, not having direct access, I believe all of this stuff.
Excellent. All right. So you're taking on the DNC, you're taking on the GOP, the deep state, everybody on your tour. So what do you hope to accomplish on that tour?
Destroy the Democratic and Republican parties, force the Anti-Defamation League to declare itself as an agent of a foreign power, Israel, kick the United Kingdom agents that have been covertly undermining the security of the United States out of town and get the 99% to come together. Now, I want to, if you can, I have two exhibits for you. The first is my bodyguard. Okay. This is my bodyguard. Miss Piggy is coming with me. And some lucky person is going to get to kiss the pig at every stop. Okay. This is going to be fun. Now, here's the serious part. I'm a Trumper through and through. Trumpers are not Republicans. Okay. The GOP is a treasonous criminal outfit, and their whole Stop the Steal thing is a fraud because they haven't spent a dime on Stop the Steal. All right. So this is the Trump hat. All right. Embroidered eagle, #unrigged. Now this is the Sandinista hat, and it's blue if you look closely. Okay, so this is the Sandinista hat. And the point that I'm making on this tour is that the populist right needs to come together with the populist left in order to achieve critical mass. However, we also need the independents, the libertarians, the Constitution Party.
Oh my God.
The shithead Greens, and for everybody like you and me, none of the above.
There we go. All right.
All right. So this tour is about nothing less than uniting the 99% and kicking the 1% in the balls.
That's fantastic. So election reform, I'm seeing little hints of election reform. We just saw in Pennsylvania where they're like, okay, all the people that were on the death rows, we're going to take those off now. And it's like, yeah, that's kind of like too late now, guys. But
no, they're all going through the motions. And, you know, I don't have it now because it's packed up, but I got into election reform when Occupy happened. I'm a son of New York. So I drove up to Occupy, and they had an election reform working group, and I joined that. And I very quickly realized that Occupy had pretty much been penetrated and hijacked, and they weren't actually serious about fixing stuff. But I got the bug in my ear on election reform. So then I read a whole bunch of books. I did a whole bunch of studying. I identified over 100 organizations that had some kind of election reform initiative. The conclusion I came to was that none of them, including the National Association for Public Administration, none of them are serious. They're using election reform as a fundraising gimmick. Okay, and they're paying lip service to election reform. Now, Dr. Cynthia McKinney, and I'm an alt-right white male, former spy, Marine Corps infantry officer, and people are really surprised that I get along with Dr. Cynthia McKinney, who is a alt-left black female former congresswoman whose greatest redeeming virtue is A, she voted for Trump and has stated that Trump won, and B, she refused to sign the Israel First Pledge, which all congressmen are required to sign if they want to keep their job and get funding, okay? So McKinney and I came together and we studied everything, and we came up with 12 different things that have to happen simultaneously, all right? You can't do pot shots on this one. You got to have paper ballots counted publicly on site. Electronic voting machines were designed to steal elections. An electronic voting machine can determine the winner before the first vote is cast. That is beyond dispute, all right? You also need to have instant runoff, but instant runoff only works if you have paper ballots counted publicly on site. Otherwise, the machine will rig the instant runoff. You got to have public funding for campaigns. You have to have open primaries, or the public doesn't fund the primary. You have to have media access. And at the presidential level, I have said any president has to provide a balanced budget 90 days in advance of the election, and they have to name their cabinet and have cabinet level debates on policy. So agriculture, defense, justice, and so forth. So the system is rigged. President Trump, who I consider to be our legitimate president today, President Trump was absolutely right when he said the system is rigged. And that's when #unrigged entered my head. I had always talked about election reform. I'd never said #unrigged. So President Trump got me to think #unrigged. And the thing that people need to understand is that it's not just congressional and presidential elections that are rigged, but all local elections are also rigged. And I have joined with the sheriffs, the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association, which I recommend that everybody join. And if you join as a member, you get the posse badge. Okay, so you become a member of the posse. And what people don't understand is that the legally elected sheriff can tell the federal and state governor to fuck off.
Absolutely.
That they're overreaching their powers, okay? So I am on record as saying that I think that most, not all, but most federal, state, and local officials have been bribed, blackmailed, or brainwashed to turn against the public interest. Yes. So this tour is about waking people up to the fact that we need to have county constitutional sheriffs, we need to have county coin, county web, and we need to start telling the state and federal government to back off.
You're having resistance, no doubt about it. They're trying to shut you down and come after you legally in all kinds of crazy ways. You need funding. What are you doing to overcome all these obstacles?
Well, you know, it's funny because they did shut me down successfully in 2017, and I learned a lot. But I'm also a different breed of cat. I mean, 2017, I was a boot. Okay, now I'm a seasoned gunnery sergeant. You don't fuck with a seasoned gunnery sergeant. Okay. And I have legal teams that have been offered to me by my millionaires. In fact, we just created an email address, legal@bigbatyusa.org. And every time someone defames me, every time someone says something negative against me on Twitter, my people will send that to legal@bigbatyusa. We're just going to start keeping book. And at the end of the day, this is conspiracy and cyber stalking. Okay. Now, conspiracy is triple damages for defamation and tortious interference, and cyber stalking is a federal felony. Okay. So I'm going to hand them their ass if they do this. Now, I'm getting impressions that they understand that I'm going to hand them their ass. And they tried to divide Mac from me. They tried to divide Trent Loos from me. They've tried to divide Cynthia McKinney from me. And the bottom line is those guys are loyal to President Trump. They're loyal to the concept of the tour. And they understand that every single time someone says something negative about me that is not true, that is legally actionable. So what we're doing is basically collecting all the evidence, and we'll probably file a couple of lawsuits in July with like 400 John Does, and then we'll do discovery. And discovery is a porcupine enema. You do not ever want to be on the receiving end of Robert Steele's porcupine enema.
That's amazing. I have to recover from that one. That's a good one.
Oh, it's a great visual, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm a visual guy, so that worked good on me. Yeah, so I see, you know, all this stuff, you know, starting to collapse in certain areas. We need momentum, and I think you're going to help build that. Now, we both talked with Juan. You've had him on your show. I've had him on my show. We've seen him on shows. The guy's brilliant. I've met him. He's a fantastic guy, and his intel is like unbelievable. I think he's more accurate. I think he's more accurate than everybody else. Yeah, absolutely. And even when I talk about stuff that I had known that I thought that no one else knew, he goes deep with it. I'm like, oh my God. So he's legitimate. This is a guy that grew up with Howard Hughes. And he knows stuff. And one of the things that he wrecked my life. And the reason he wrecked my life was because I had kind of started to think about this tour, and I was starting to think about starting it in July and then finishing in September. And Juan said, no, he said, Robert, I need you in Dallas with Flynn and Powell on the 29th of May, and I want you at Mount Rushmore on the 4th of July. Wow. So that cost me 6 to 8 weeks of planning time. So I'm doing 16-hour days, 7 days a week, which is fine. And it's all coming together because of who I know and the people that are doing the different things. Trent Loos, for example, Cowboy Trent, great American. He is using his network to identify locations. We're not actually going into shitholes like Portland and New York City. We're identifying constitutional sheriffs and friendly high school principals on the outskirts where people feel safe. And so we'll have all of our locations nailed down over the next 30 days. Scott McKay, Patriot Street Fighter, has joined the tour. He's wrapping his own bus. We've got tons of people saying they're going to come along for the ride. I'm being told we might be escorted by 500 motorcycles and 50 Corvettes. I mean, I'm actually worried about creating a traffic jam. Last week, I was worried about porta potties. This week, I'm worried about road convoy security. That's incredible. Yeah. So we know Juan really well. Juan's made some statements. You know, we're we're kind of disappointed that things didn't turn out the way that we thought they would, and that we wanted them to. Of course, everyone's like that. What do you see going forward as far as,
Well, Juan and I have had this conversation. In fact,
I'm sure.
we met for dinner 3 times at the Trump Hotel in Washington the week of 1 through 7 May. And let me tell people, the kitchen at the Trump Hotel sucks. Okay, it's horrible.
I like that. I like the food there. I don't know.
I found the steaks too big. I found the steaks too big. Plus the way the chef works, you have to order 1 step up. For instance, I like medium rare, but I have to order medium in order to get medium rare. And the asparagus. I mean, you could kill somebody with one of these asparagus things that they serve. Okay, just poke them right in the eye and they're dead. So it was very disappointing. I'm sure that the president, who eats McDonald's a lot, hasn't actually scoped out the kitchen. But anyway, I ask Juan every single time I meet him. I say, Juan, is John F. Kennedy Jr. alive? He says, yes.
Yes.
And then I said, Juan, is Trump coming back? He says, yes. Okay. I said, Juan, I've got 6 guys that are going to fuck up your $1 million cars if this doesn't come true. So I think he's right. I think Trump will be at Mount Rushmore on the 4th of July. I'm expecting Trump to come back, if not this month, then next month. Biden is probably dead. I think all the world leaders know that this was a fraudulent election. The evidence against the CIA for hammer and scorecard is incontrovertible. And again, I never tire of saying that 90% of the people in the secret world are good people trapped in a bad system. It's that last 10% that are doing the stupid shit for Wall Street and others. So on balance, I rate Juan as an absolutely credible, decent human being, and I consider it a privilege to know him.
I agree. Yeah, he's.
Oh, by the way, 107daily.com, he's dropped $6 million on that. He can now do 100 million hits a second. He's about to pull down the facade that he used as bait, and I think that is going to end up being President Trump's social ecology. I don't think Lindell is going to succeed.
Yeah. Wow, I look forward to it. We need new platforms. We need them bad.
Well, we not only need new platforms, we need an ecology. For example, the proposal that I sent toward the White House, and I now realize that the 6 things I sent President Trump were not delivered. But the president needs a dashboard where he can pulse the country, no matter what platform anybody else is using, whether it's Twitter or Facebook or Telegram. He should be able to pulse the country by demographic, by issue, and by location, and just have a feeling. And he should be able to communicate to everybody with a pull system. So in other words, I should be able to post my stuff on one website and people can pull it to Telegram or Gab or whatever. I shouldn't have to sign up on 16 different platforms to push my stuff out. And nobody should be allowed to deplatform me the way YouTube has. Okay. In fact, YouTube is now deplatforming people who dared to interview me 4 years ago. Wow. Okay. I mean, I've got a pending lawsuit against YouTube, but I frankly don't care. YouTube is shit. I can do without YouTube. But the bottom line here is the ecology needs to work so that one person with one choice of portal can tap into everything and get multilingual translation and have tools for sense making. We don't have tools for sense making. Right now, what we have is digital diarrhea, digital assassination, and oh, by the way, 96% of the information is not indexed, and we're losing a Library of Alexandria every single night, including open source journals that are going out of business, and all of that educated, peer-reviewed stuff is vanishing. That's
a really good point. Yeah. So when mine was taken down, it was I had, I think, close to 600 videos on there, so they're all gone. And I was like, if it goes, it goes. It's like.
Well, you should always be backed up on BitChute. Yeah, and BitChute processing speeds are amazing now.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, I think that going forward, I'll probably do that. But being a one-man show, it's kind of hard to
Well, I can introduce you to Ray, the BitChute CEO, because he saved my ass. Unbeknownst to me, he recognized that my star was rising. So he has an automated program that backs up everything at YouTube to BitChute.
I've heard that. That's wild. Good.
Okay, so if you send me an email or have your assistant send me an email, I'll introduce you guys to Ray. He can
All right.
set up a BitChute channel that copies everything from your YouTube channel. And then if YouTube deplatforms you, doesn't matter because you've got the BitChute backup already lined up.
Boom. Yeah, that's
And
good.
it automatically takes new stuff.
Yeah. And like Rodriguez has got his own TV, his website TV. I'm looking into doing that. I have someone I'm talking to tonight about that. So yeah, we're doing what we can, but I would love to see that other 107 Daily, whatever that's going to be, whatever's going to happen on that other in Trump's platform. Love to see that. Love to see that pop. I feel strongly that's going to be an answer for a lot of us.
A big part of where I hope to play a role is as an educator. We've had multiple generations now dumbed down and drugged up and practically brainwashed. I mean, here in Fairfax County, they're trying to push transgender sexual education into the elementary school.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's just sick and perverted. And I know the chairman of Fairfax County Board of Supervisors. That's a smart person. I have to assume they have been bribed, blackmailed, or brainwashed into doing this stupid shit.
That's what I think too when I see people that are doing that. One of those things is happening. And we're looking at, I used to think, oh, the Democrat Party is like completely corrupt, but at least we have the GOP. And then I started to see it was corrupt. I was like, well, maybe a little bit's corrupt. And then it was like, no. And then maybe, Trump made that statement. Well, maybe I have to go away for a little bit so we can see, who's corrupt, who's not on our side.
They're all bad.
It really revealed so much.
I was a libertarian, and I finally resigned from the Libertarian Party because the Koch brothers were giving libertarians, and that's the proper pronunciation, by the way, the Koch brothers. They were giving libertarians a bad name because their view of libertarianism is I get to shit in your punch bowl. And my view of libertarianism is don't come fucking near my punch bowl or I'll kill you. They're not really interested in winning elections. And I'll tell you, my vision for this tour is that Dennis Nunes, who I love, Dennis Nunes and Jim Jordan are two of my heroes. I would like to see Devin Nunes be the Speaker of the House in 2022. The way we get there is he needs to introduce the #Unrigged Election Reform Act before my tour starts.
Nice, yeah.
And then we've got these billboards that we're trying to get all over the country that basically say, why are you donating to politicians and parties in a rigged system? Stop the dollars. And that was Juan's idea. Now, what I want to do is modify that and say, don't donate to anybody unless they are a co-sponsor of Devin Nunes' #Unrigged Election Reform Act.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Okay. And the bottom line here is that if this act passes, then we can have in Congress in 2022, 1/5 Trumpers, 1/5 Sandinistas, who are not socialists and they're not even Democrats. They've been screwed by Bernie Sanders and the Democratic Party twice now. 1/3 libertarians, 1/5 libertarians, 1/5 independents, and 1/5 all others. Now that means that Congress will make evidence-based decisions and no one party can control either house of Congress. That's the fundamental reform that needs to happen to make America great again.
So we're seeing, kind of something that happened with Trump, constantly going after good people. What do you think about what's the situation with Matt Gaetz right now? Is that legit, or is it, basically trying to take it down, a good guy that's basically been against them? What's happening with that? Do you have any insights on that?
I don't have any insights on that particular individual, but I'll say two things generally speaking. Number one, and I called out Jeffrey Epstein for being a fake billionaire in 2008. I knew he was just a sheep-dipped asshole that was playing the role. And he's also a pedophile. But the way we do it is you get a congressman drunk and send him to bed with a legal age blonde, and they wake up drugged, having sex with a 12-year-old that's been trained to have sex like a jackrabbit on video. Okay? So now they think, that you own them. The other thing I've heard is that congressmen will be taken out into the woods and shown one of their staffers being pushed through a wood chipper. Okay, so these people are very afraid, and the FBI has been neutralized by Congress. The FBI has been castrated ever since Abscam. And there are good people in the FBI, but there are even more good people who have left the FBI. And if I were God, If Sidney Powell, for example, were to become head of the FBI, I tell her the first thing she needs to do is bring, yes, it would, with Mike Flynn as the restored director of Central Intelligence, Robert Steele at the Open Source Agency. Now you're kicking some ass. But the first thing I would tell Powell is you need to bring 1,000 retired FBI guys that know how to do it right and have big balls back to the job.
They would be showing up big time. That would be incredible. That's a great idea.
She's called Joan of Arc around the world. And I mean, I arranged for her to get $100,000 from one of my millionaire friends. And, you know, I really admire her very much, just as much as I admire Mike Flynn and 𝙗𝙗 𝙤𝙗. And I feel lucky to know them all.
Excellent.
But look, Trump, first off, a lot of people have been led down this road and then they acquire a taste for it. There is also a lot of deep fakes. Okay. I mean, I'm on constant lookout. I have safeguards in place so that Microsoft can't dump child porn on my website, on my laptop. You know, I mean, there are lots of ways to fry people. And by the time you do a recovery, it's almost too late. All right. I'm pure as could be. But there are lots of different ways to defame me, to cause people to doubt me, and so forth. And I've seen that, but at the same time, there's nobody else like me. I mean, I've got 10 websites. I've published over 70 books and booklets. I am what I am. I mean, what you see is what you get with Robert David Steele. So I think I can survive any concerted attack. I certainly have the legal chops now to document and fry anybody that runs a conspiracy campaign to defame me. And last but not least, I believe that my emphasis on truth and reconciliation has been helpful because it is not my wish to drive a stake into the heart of the Anti-Defamation League. I've already told them, you know, all you have to do to be right with Robert is declare yourself an enemy. Well, they are an enemy. Declare yourself an agent of a foreign power. The minute you do that, great. As long as you declare yourself as an agent of a foreign power, I don't care if you shit in the middle of Broad Street. Everybody knows you're doing it for Israel.
Good point. Good point. So how can people get hold of you going forward?
Well, robertdavidsteele.com is the free opt-in to get my daily email. And 𝙂𝙤𝙤𝙤 is where we're asking for $100 as the recommended donation, but any amount will do. We have to raise $12,000 a night to pay for this $1.3 to $1.5 million campaign. I've already raised $350,000. I've spent $250,000. I've got enough to pay the bills for the next 2 weeks. So I would be very, very glad if people sent in. In fact, 𝙗𝙗 𝙤𝙗 people are sending in $107 so that I know that they're 𝙗𝙗 𝙤𝙗 people. Why don't your people send in $101 so that I'll know that this is the Jacko effect?
All right, 101. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be sending.
All right, bigbatUSA.org. And of course, you're invited to join the tour. And, you know, what we're doing is we've got about 90 people that each get one stop, but their bio shows up on the website. We point people at their website. I mean, the bio shows up on our website. We point people at their website. It'd be great to have you talk some shit to the crowd. I know they would love you. So this tour is a unity tour, you know, and these hats for me represent where we've gone wrong. Okay. We have allowed them to divide us and conquer us. We have allowed them to disenfranchise 80% of the voters. We have allowed them to get away with murder, literally, for 50 to 60 years, if not longer. So this is about uniting all Americans with election reform as the core issue. And in the end, we all bleed red. So McKinney and I devised the phrase, people, not parties, authentic, inclusive, and truthful. So this tour is about giving the power back. This tour is about helping the people take back the power that was stolen from them. So bigbatUSA.org, you would be doing me a huge favor. And if I see a bunch of 101 checks, then you can pick your stop and it'll include a better steak than the Trump Hotel.
All right. Let's do it, guys. Let's get them 101. I'm off here. I'm right on it. I'll leave the links down in the description box. So it's been an honor speaking with you, Robert David Steele. You're an amazing man, and you're trying to help America, and it's in a desperate straits right now. So thank you very much.
Let me say, it's not in desperate straits. The only thing that is missing is integrity and public governance. America the Beautiful can be fixed and fixed quick.
Yes.
If the 99% will come together, stop allowing the Republican and Democratic parties to serve as fronts for the deep state. The Republican and Democratic parties, it's one bird, two wings, same shit. Okay? We need to fry both parties. And people like Devin Nunes and Jim Jordan should be reelected as Trumpers on their own merits, not as Republicans.
That's beautiful. Wow. Well, thank you very much for coming on. It's been a great honor speaking with you, and I look forward to speaking to you in the future.
Well, tomorrow is my honor because I'm interviewing you.
Excellent. Yeah, I look forward to it. All right. Thanks a lot. Thanks everyone that came in, and we'll